Hi everybody, so today I'm going to do a review of the Open Bible. So this one is going to be in the King James Version. It is the brown genuine leather. This one did come out in September of 2019. So I'm going to hold that right there. You can check out all the features. And then we will look at all the additional features and resources. And here is the ISBN number. This one does retail for $109.99. They also offer a hardcover as well as a variety of different leather soft editions as well. This one here is going to measure out at 9.5 inches tall by 6 5/8 inches wide, and it is 1.5 inches thick. So we can see we've got nice gold gilding. This one does have a shiny gilding, where the New King James has more of a satin finish. Then on our leather on this one, it's more of a satin finish, where the New King James is like shiny. But it's a really pretty leather. It's perimeter stitched. Does have a nice grain pattern on it, as you can see there. So really a nice looking leather, plus it also feels nice and it smells good as well. Alright, so on our spine we're going to have the Open Bible, KJV, and the little Thomas Nelson House logo. And again, just a really nice grain pattern on that leather. Plus it's just a good size Bible. I really like the size of this one. It's not overwhelmingly big like some study Bibles. Alright, so we're going to have a vinyl paste down liner. We've got a presentation page. Then we'll get into our title pages. I do really like that they used red in this. I think that looks really nice. We'll have a welcome to the Open Bible. It's going to explain the reference system. And there's going to be over 72,000 cross-references. We've got the contributors to the study aids, all of the contents of the Bible. We've also got the epistle dedicatory. We've got the special abbreviations, and then how to study the Bible. These pages are super helpful. So it's going to give you different information on how to do devotional Bible study, studying for Bible knowledge. You can do different studies by paragraphs, by verses, by books of the Bible. You can do studies by topics, as well as by certain words or biographies. So tons of ways to study the Bible. There's even a section on family Bible study, and that's really nice. Then we're going to get into the Christian's Guide to the New Life. So very helpful information to a new Christian. It's also helpful if you're discipling somebody. Just super useful information in the beginning of this. And then we get into our topical index of the Bible, which is very unique to the Open Bible. One thing that we're also going to look at here is in the gutter, you're going to see some of the larger stitches. So the sewn binding, but then here on the side, we can see that other stitching there. So that is what they call overcast stitching, and that you just don't see very often in Bibles anymore. So excellent binding on this one. So this thing will hold up for the rest of your life if you take care of it. So we're going to have our topical index to the Bible. So tons of different topics on here. So just lots of ways to study the Bible. And you can see right there how thick that is. So this topical index is going to be 241 pages. So just tons of stuff. I mean, you could study from this one your entire life and still learn something new on your last day of reading it. We're going to have a read through the Bible through in a year. Then we'll get into the Old Testament. Each book will have an introduction that'll go over the author and the time. There will be keys to the book, a survey of the book, and then the Christ of that book, so that's always interesting. Then each one will also have a nice outline. And then we get into the biblical text. So we're going to have a double column format with all of our cross references in the center column. It's also basically got like a built-in glossary in there as well. On the bottoms of the pages, we're going to have different studies, which are really neat. So we're going to zoom in and look at the way this is done. One thing, we do have 1/2 inch margins, so you do have a little bit of space if you wanted to make small notes. I really like that they used red on the book numbers and the chapters, and then also all of the cross references have red as well. So we're going to get in here and take a look at the way that the references are done. So right up here in verse 1, we can see, in the beginning God created the heaven and the earth. We can see the small a and b. And if we go to our center column, we can see the reference for A as well as B. But then we can also see here that we've got references that are within brackets. So those are going to be what they call conceptual cross-references. And then as far as like the glossary that's in here, so we're going to have, and God said, let there be a firmament. We can see that little one that's right in front of that. If we go to our center column, we can see that that word means expanse. So it's really nice that you have different things in there that's going to tell you what those words mean. So it is really helpful. And then along the bottoms of the pages, so we're going to have our first study here. So this one is on the unity of the Trinity. So it's got the study, but then it will tell us on the bottom where to turn to next for the persons of the Trinity. Then on the other page, we've got our first covenant, and then it tells us where to find the next one. So along the bottoms of the pages, you'll find all kinds of different studies, and then it refers you to where the next one is, which is really neat. Then we're going to look in here in chapter 10, which chapter 10 of Genesis is always a good place to check to see if a Bible has self-pronouncing text for the names or not. And as we look at that, we can see that it is not self-pronouncing. We're going to look at the first of our 3 ribbons. So this one is the brown one. It is just a single satin, but a nice wider ribbon, and it is also long enough to use. So that is nice. I really like that they gave us 3 ribbons and that they're different colors. I think they did a great job on the color choices. We're going to come back here. We're going to take a quick look at the Poetic Books and see how those look. Now the Poetic Books, you're always going to have a little bit more ghosting in them than you do the others. But with this being line matched, you really don't get much distraction at all. So line matching just basically means that the text on this side of the page is lined up with the text on the other so that you don't have as much ghosting. So that is super, super helpful. So on this page here, what I wanted to point out is on this side we can see that this one is just filled with cross-references, where this one has a little bit more space. So on pages where there's too many to fit, what they're going to do there is we're going to get down to the bottom and we'll end in 23:1 here, but then over here we've got the references for 23:2 to 24:7. So some pages you'll have so many references that they do have to utilize the bottom right hand side of the page. So that just kind of shows you how many references are in this Bible. Again, there's over 72,000. So we've got our second ribbon, which is a pretty shade of red. We're going to get to the middle of the Bible here. And we're going to look at what they call the visual survey of the Bible. So we end from Malachi, and then we get into the introduction to the visual survey of the Bible. I'll hold that right there in case you would like to pause and read that. Gives you good information on what it is. And so these pages are just awesome. There's so much useful information in them, and it's so nice to see it in different timelines and charts. So we've got the Old Testament on this side, the New on the other. So it's going to go over like the size of the book, the years of history, the number of books, themes, keywords, and Jesus Christ is seen in. So that's really neat. And then we've got this nice timeline that goes across the bottom of the pages. So these are just really neat. We're going to have the history of the early world. So again, nice charts and graphs. Then we'll get into the history of Israel. So we'll have a section on the people, the land, and the kingdom. It also goes over the poetic books, so that would be the heart of the Jews. Then we've got the prophetic books, which will be the hope of the Jews. We're going to have the history of Israel, what they call the remnant, so we've got bridging the testaments. So that's neat. We've got one on the life of Christ, as well as the history of the early church, the writings of the early church, and then the themes of the New Testament letters, and then we jump into the New Testament. So we'll start with our book introduction to Matthew. One thing you might see right there is there's just a slight blue hue in the gutter, and the only time I see that in this Bible is when I'm using light like what I'm sitting under right now. But I typically read this in my bedroom with the lamp, and I don't notice that blue hue, so don't let that be a deterrent for you. So we've got a nice long introduction on Matthew. And then we've got our third ribbon, which is that pretty shade of blue. And then we're also going to see our red letter. So get you a nice close-up. So it is a nice shade of red. It's not super, super bright, but it's not quite as dark as the one in the New King James. But again, it is still really readable. Excellent print in this one. They did a great job with this Bible. Then we're going to get back to the end of the Bible. One thing we'll see is we've got red letter all the way through to the end of Revelation. And then we're going to get into all of the back features. So we're going to have a Harmony of the Gospels, which will span several pages. We've got the Jewish calendar, so that's also going to have like all the feasts. And then we've got the table of monies, weights, and measures. We've got a page on the teachings and illustrations of Christ, so that's going to be a few pages. Then we've got the prophecies of the Messiah fulfilled in Jesus Christ. I always get messed up when I look at the camera lens to try to read versus the page. The camera's just too small to look at. We're going to have a page on the parables as well as the miracles. Then we get into the back, we've got the laws of the Bible. So these are interesting to go over all of those. Then we've got information on between the testaments. So it goes over like the different periods. So we've got the Persian period, Alexander the Great. There will be one on the Hasmoneans, as well as the different Jewish sects, as well as like the Pharisees, Sadducees, that sort of thing. And then we will have a chronology. And then we've got information on the Apocrypha. Then we've got the Scarlet Thread of Redemption. So that's pretty neat to read. And then we've got a guide to the Christian workers. Really helpful information. And this is really good, and that's going to be several pages. Then we've got a page on all the prayers in the Bible. I think this is great. I always bookmark that page. Then we get into the Concordance. So 3-column format. The words are done in bold, so still a really nice print, easy to read. The Concordance in this one is a little bit smaller than the New King James. This one has 62 pages, whereas the New King James has 194. We will have a note regarding the type, which is done by 2K Denmark. And each one of the comfort prints are going to be unique to the translation. And we're going to have our map so we can see that that is on a glossy paper. So we will have 8 maps. They're all full color. More stitching there in the gutter. I just realized that I forgot to mention that the paper in this is a 36 GSM paper. So it does have a very nice paper in this. Then our font size is going to be a 9-point font. The comfort print does tend to read a hair smaller than some fonts, but this one is really readable. It's a very nice paper, has a nice feel to it. Just an overall excellent Bible. So this one is the King James. I'll give you just a quick shot of the New King James. So I will link at the end of the video the full review to the New King James. And then I'll also link the video that I go over some of the differences. And one of them you can see right there, the leather. So we've got the satin finish on this one where we can see that one's shiny. And then also the gilding is different. So we've got a shiny gilding on this one, whereas on this one we've got like a satin finish. So unique enough of differences that I think it's worth getting both. If you're on the fence, you have this one, you weren't sure if you wanted to get this one, it's definitely worth getting. So again, this one has been the King James version. There's the shot of the ISBN number on that one. I will also give you just a quick shot of the New King James one. And then if you want to see the review of this one, it will be at the end of the video. But excellent Bibles. Thomas Nelson did a fantastic job on these Bibles. If you don't have an open Bible in your library, you need to get one. All right. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.